Hey everyone, welcome to Prophecy Roundtable. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas Hamp, and my amazing co-host, Scott Harwell at Law. So if you need some legal advice, go see him. We are here to talk about Revelation 17 tonight. Oh my goodness, what an exciting journey we have had through this book of Revelation, and it's not over. We got 2 chapters talking about the woman that rides the beast. And yeah, I'm going to geek out tonight. I'm not going to deny it. We're going to look at some ancient stuff. We're going to look at some modern stuff. We're going to look at some stuff in between. And we probably won't solve everything. I doubt it, but we will at least get some ideas out there. And of course, as always, we want you guys to chime in, ask some questions. We'll do our best to get to those. So what do you think, Scott? Is this going to be an exciting show tonight?
We're just going to be talking about some ladies.
Well, man, let's dig in, dude. Like, there's no time like the present. That's what I figure. All right, so here we go. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and spoke to me. Come, he said, I will show you the condemnation and punishment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual morality, and the earth's inhabitants got drunk with the wine of her immorality.
Hey, can
So,
we stop there?
yeah, man, of course.
So immediately we're talking about this sexual immorality. So again, this is, and again, we're going to get into this more, but this is like I see this as cheating language. In other words, you don't see it's not like that God's happy with the pagan nations or anything, but they were never his wife. They were never in covenant with him. He wants them to be in covenant, but I just see this sexual immorality you all the way back, especially in Ezekiel 16 and 23, when it talks about the harlot. 23 is more probably applying to both houses in Jerusalem. And I mean, no, 16, but 23 really lasers in on these 2 sisters. As Jeremiah points out in chapter 3. Again, you've got these 2 houses, you've got these 2 women, and obviously Israel never repented and got put away and actually got divorced and put out of covenant. Judah was worse, not necessarily because she sinned as bad as Israel, although under certain kings she did, and Manasseh was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back for God. That was like, I'm done. Y'all have went back into this, and Judah saw what had happened to the house of Israel in spite of the prophets. So again, I'm just seeing the sexual immorality and just the overall theme of this, that and especially the wine of her fornication. And the reason I'm saying that all throughout the prophets, drunkenness and wine and intoxicating drink is about the bad doctrines. And to
Yeah,
your
I,
point,
I think we strongly disagree on this point.
yeah,
I really don't think that this is talking about Jerusalem. I
well,
just
to
don't,
your point,
you know.
but these symbols that you're showing, walk around Jerusalem. We could go on a tour right now. We could walk around Jerusalem, my friend, and I could point to you
Yeah.
Babylonian sun worship in
Yeah.
all 3 religions.
Yep.
Okay,
I
that's my
agree with you.
point.
I know. But I mean, why not just go back to the source? You
Well, we
know,
are. They've mixed the source in.
I
The
mean,
source has been
I
mixed
think
in.
this is where, people start saying, "Oh, New York is Babylon." I'm like, "How about Babylon is Babylon? Why can't Babylon be Babylon?" I really don't see the
It's a
problem with that.
mystery. It's it's
But
it's.
no, but see, mystery is not part of the title. Mystery is a description, and
Mm-hmm.
when you start going back to this chick right here, right? So what we're looking at here, this is from 2100 BC. This is a cylinder seal. You can see that little stone there. It's carved out, and then you roll it on soft clay, and it makes this seal. And you can see Ishtar, Inanna. She's known as the Queen of Heaven. She's mentioned verbatim. She's mentioned as the Queen of Heaven
Catholics
in
know her as Mary.
Jeremiah, in the book of Jeremiah. She's mentioned there. She's also mentioned in Isaiah 48. She's mentioned very specifically. She later becomes known as Ashtoreth, Aphrodite. In India, she's Durga. All right, she's got a number of different names, but she was mysterious because she was both life and death at the same time. She was war and peace at the same time. She could curse one city and then bless another one for no apparent reason. She was always a virgin, but always active, right? She had nothing to do with motherhood, and yet was this, very fertile, well, woman who was going all around. So this symbol takes us right back to Babylon, to the gate of the gods established by Nimrod. I think we should go back there. I don't see the point of going to Jerusalem. It just feels like you want to throw stones at Jerusalem.
No. This has zero to do with Jerusalem. I mean, that is where Yah chose to place His name. Yeah. This is we haven't gotten to that verse yet.
Right.
But Judah is currently widowed corporately, Doug. Babylon was never in covenant. My point is,
but I think you're stretching it though.
I mean, no. My point is what Judah did pretty much most of the way through Scripture. What Judaism has done now, because they don't think they're a widow. They believe they're still in covenant. Christianity, again, I'm not just throwing rocks at Judah. Okay, this rock here. As far as this kings of the earth committing sexual immorality, definitely there's a strong argument for the house of Israel side of this branch in Romanized Christianity. And again, in Jerusalem, my point being, I think sometimes you might think I'm just like throwing rocks at Judah. No, I am including in this equation the Romanized Christianity, and you've even got Islam. You've got the three major religions that are monotheistic, that are all making this claim to Jerusalem, and we know it's going to be the focal point. We know it's going to be the hooks in the jaw that all the nations gather. So again, I'm just saying, take these symbols and go and look at the Pope's hat. Look at some of the symbolism.
Wait, how did we go from Jerusalem to not talking about the Pope?
Does the Roman Catholic Church have a heavy presence in Jerusalem and in the land?
Yeah. Yes. It's no. I mean, it's not that great.
They do. I mean, I've had to pay for bathrooms.
Dude, I think you're not sticking with the text. I really think you're introducing things that are not in the text. I show you something from 2100 BC from Babylon, and you shrug it off.
No. You see, you're not listening on this.
I am listening. I listen to you.
Wait, so you said Queen of Heaven. You said Queen of Heaven. Okay, and so
was Jerusalem ever the Queen of Heaven?
No. What has Roman Catholicism done with Mary?
Wait, how did we get to Roman Catholicism?
Well, again, the Queen of Heaven, Doug. See, what you're not seeing is how Christianity has mixed in what you're describing right here. They've taken the truth and they've mixed in these lies. This is that drunkenness from the bad doctrine. Again, it's symbolism. This is not, you would even agree that this is not about some lady that drank a bunch of too much booze one night. I mean, that there's certainly a symbolism here, and it's not just literal. I mean, they knew Babylon hasn't been around to do anything for the past 2,500 years as a literal city.
No, of course not. I mean, things have moved on. I'll show you another picture. I mean, there's so many. We can go on and on and on. This is from Egypt, right? So, but this clearly shows you the woman on the back of a beast. This is simply the Egyptian version of that. You can see it's quite sexualized, obviously. So this is way before the Catholic Church, way before Jerusalem, and
look at on top of her head, though. Look at some of the Roman Catholic symbolism and what it's been mixed in. That's what I'm trying to, that's again, you're too smart to not see that Rome has taken these symbols and mixed them into the faith.
Look,
I can show you that symbol in Roman Catholicism.
Yeah, but look, I'm not here to necessarily defend the Roman Catholic Church. I know they have their issues. We agree on that they have lots of issues. But then you keep saying that this is like, are you suggesting that the woman that rides the beast is Jerusalem?
No, the whore, the harlot religion.
But harlot harlot does not mean adulterous wife. There's a difference there. Okay.
We might would differ.
Well, but I think you're wrong though, because
it's called a harlot.
A harlot, but look, dude, I look, I don't know how else to explain this any better. This one right here, 2100 BC, she was called the harlot, the mother of harlots, Ishtar from Babylon, not Jerusalem. Okay, that was her title. That was her title. She was called the mother of harlots. Okay, so it wasn't Jerusalem. Now, did Jerusalem do some stupid stuff? Yes. Did they do some pagan stuff? Yes. Did God judge them? Yes. We agree on that. But to suggest that Revelation 17 and 18 is talking about Jerusalem is just factually incorrect. It's not historically right.
Again, we would differ.
Well, I know, but now you got to defend your thesis. You're not defending your thesis from the text. You're going back to all these other anecdotal kinds of things, and you're like, "Well, Jerusalem was a harlot." Well, she was adulterous, yes.
No. She's called a harlot, Doug. Ezekiel 16. You want to pull it up?
Okay, right. So she's likened to a harlot.
No. She's called a harlot.
But okay, but let's stick with the text here. The text that in question is talking about a woman that's riding the beast. Where do we see this? Long before the Bible's even penned, we have a woman riding a beast. I think what you're not seeing, and I've been saying this for 3 or 4 years now, is that the woman that rides the beast is not Jerusalem. It's not the Catholic Church. It's Babylon. And I bring in you archaeological evidence of a woman riding a beast. All these things go back to Jerusalem. That is the hub of this whole thing. It's the center. It is ground zero. That's where it all starts. Yes, it then spread to the whole world and it made its way to Jerusalem. Granted, yes, it did. And it's even in New York City. It's in Las Vegas. It's everywhere. But Jerusalem isn't the woman that's being spoken of in Revelation 17. That's what I have real issue with. And I'm not going to back down on this one. I'm going to be.
We can still be friends.
We can still be friends, but I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on this one.
We're going to keep going through the text.
Well, we are going to go through the text.
Okay. Well, let me pull up. Let me pull up real quick. All right, unless you want to go there, share screen. Yeah, you can go there. I'll just, or I'll do it. It doesn't matter to me. Share screen. Let's see, Ezekiel 16. There it is.
I can go
there. Up. So yeah, I mean, she is called, but you trusted in your own beauty. You played the harlot, poured out your harlotry on everyone passing by. There's no doubt, and as we're getting on down to this text, not just this one, but Ezekiel 23, where it talks about how Judah will drink. Will drink the cup of her sister. So you're going to see that in Ezekiel 23. And what are we going to see later on in this text? We're going to see this cup being drunk.
Right, but again, if we're talking about the mother of harlots, you cannot tell me that Jerusalem or Samaria were the mother of harlots. Can you?
Mm-hmm. According to Ezekiel 16, she is. She burned 2 daughters.
Maybe a harlot, but she's not the mother of harlots.
She's not
the mother of harlots, buddy.
Well, again, to where we're agreeing is Babylon, the ancient mystery religions, the occultism, 100% no doubt has always infected his people. His people, Israel, ancient Israel, Judaism, modern day Judaism, modern day Romanized Christianity. And I'm not just picking on Roman Catholics, okay? They just are the most blatantly obvious with the symbolism.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is they've always wanted to do this mixture. And Jerusalem fits the bill, not Mecca, not New York City, not Babylon. I mean, I know, and you would agree with me on this, Doug. You're probably in a minority of 1, maybe 2 people in the world that actually, maybe there's more, that actually believe ancient Babylon will be rebuilt, and that's where the Antichrist will rule from. You would at least concede that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not germane to our talk at the moment, but I think it's very likely that you could have a city that could be built in a short order, and it could be in the actual country of Iraq. I think that's entirely plausible. I don't think it's necessary, though. I don't think it has to be that way. Certainly, what we are looking at in Revelation 17, we're talking about a system. We're talking about a religious system, a world system. We're talking about a religion, for lack of a better word. I mean, I guess world system, religious system is the best way to think of it. That started in Babylon, and then it has gone to the entire world. So I'm trying to say that Revelation 17 is talking about that system that began in the country or the city of ancient Babylon, constructed by Nimrod, the rebel. He's also the one. Look, let me take you back here, because there's so much in this thing. All right, so this woman, which is Ishtar, Inanna, the queen of heaven, she's riding on the back of this beast. This beast is called the Anzu bird. It's a hybridized creature. It's got venom coming out of its mouth. It has wings. It has eagle's talons. You can't see it here, but in other manifestations of it, it has a serpent head phallus. It has a scorpion's tail. So it's what we see in Revelation chapter 9. And this Anzu bird is also, it's the representation of Enlil. Enlil is the one who is actually driving the chariot. You can't see it here. I'll show you another picture later, but he has a horn. He's got a crown with 10 horns on it. That's no accident. But let's go back to the Anzu bird for a second. Not only is it Enlil, but it also becomes later morphed with Ninurta, who is Nimrod. So it becomes emblematic of both of them. And I've got another picture I can show you where the seven-headed dragon then is equated with Ninurta. And in fact, I'll just pull that up really quick, because look at that. So here you have a seven-headed dragon, and Ninurta, aka Nimrod, he is cutting off the head of one of those. So you have a seven-headed dragon with one of them as if it were mortally wounded. But not only is he killing this thing, but then he becomes the very embodiment of this seven-headed dragon. So the seven-headed dragon is the beast in both cases. It's Ninurta, or Nimrod, also probably the beast of Revelation, who is the son of Enlil, the son of Satan, and she's riding on the back of it. All these symbols have nothing to do with Jerusalem. They have everything to do with the ancient city of Babylon and the woman that was riding that, who was the mother of harlots.
Okay, let me say this. Right now in 2026, does Jerusalem completely fit the bill? No. Let me finish. But at the end of the age, I believe that is where the beast will want to establish his name and his kingdom. Where else, if you're Satan, if you're the Enlil, if you are the adversary and you're wanting worship, where else would you want to claim this worship? I think we agree, no matter what it is, the abomination of desolation is happening in Jerusalem, most likely on the Temple Mount.
Yes.
I believe, again, end times, end of age, great tribulation period. In other words, false Messiah. It's Doug, it's going to look good that even the elect could be deceived if possible. So it's got to, whatever this final religious system is, it has to be so deceptive that even that maybe your lukewarm Christian, maybe your person, maybe your, someone that's not elect, not in covenant, could easily be deceived. They might have been Christians in name only, CEO Christians, or they might have been Jews and, like Hanukkah, pure, or I guess what you would call Passover, Yom Kippurim Jews. But it's going to look good. It's not, he's not, it's not, it's going to be something so false and so deceptive. And because they rejected the truth, Yah's going to turn them over to this deception per 2 Thessalonians 2. So again, I do believe that this is going to fit the bill at the end of the age. Not right now in 2026. Right now we just have the symbols, and hear me out, everybody. Because I'm going to add Rome in here, and the banking system and the international corporations, and so all of this, but yeah, I do believe what's being set up and what's being used by the enemy, and they're using the Zionism in the occult level, the upper level Freemason, way above Freemason level. That's the plan. In other words, Jerusalem is their plan. That's what they're focused on, and then ruling from that area. And if you study into the occult, just like what you're talking about, this ancient mystery religion that goes all the way back to the Babylon, that's what these upper level, higher occultists, that's their religion, Doug, but they've hijacked within the mainstream religions. And I'm not talking about the local rabbi down the street. I'm talking about those that are the most initiated into this. That's what I'm seeing. Okay, I could be wrong. Obviously, I don't pal around with these people. They don't invite me to their super spooky occult parties. But I've read it. I've read enough about this. I've studied enough by people who do spend a lot of time studying this. Even though I don't agree, like with Walter Veith. I mean, I think his research on the Roman Catholicism is excellent. There are others who do an excellent job talking about the occultism within Judaism and the Zionism blend of that, and how I believe these two sisters, and I don't know how Islam gets included though, Doug. I really don't. I can't fathom this right now. How it gets included in this one bastardized type religion in which Jews and Christians are both putting their faith in a false Messiah. So I don't know how it plays out, but that's why I think it's going to ultimately be in Jerusalem then. That's where he wants to rule from.
Well, we're agreed on that. I do think that, clearly the abomination of desolation is going to take place there. The Antichrist will definitely set up shop for some amount of time. How much is another question. But to equate Jerusalem as the end times Babylon, I just don't see that. Look, when we get into the next chapter, we see that God is wrathful. He can hardly wait to utterly destroy her and erase her from the earth. That doesn't fit the bill for Jerusalem. Even though Jerusalem has transgressed in a number of ways, still he loves her. And when he comes back, he's coming to save Jerusalem, not to smite her. Well, he's coming to save the people there.
We agree.
So I think the whole thing falls apart.
But to your point, they're supposed to flee. You even said that there's going to be a valley. You believe that it's going to split, and that they're going to be able to flee because wrath is coming. And then when we start looking in Ezekiel 40 through 48 and the topography of what will be the new Jerusalem, in other words, what might be on earth, it's getting redone. I can't see any building surviving.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that the infrastructure of Jerusalem is going to survive. I don't even think that God necessarily cares about the infrastructure per se, but he does care about the people. And
I think they get out.
Well, they're gonna flee through. They won't have that much time to get out. So the Mount of Olives is going to split in two, and then Jesus is going to interpose himself right then and there. That's still Jerusalem, by the way. That is in Jerusalem. That's not away from Jerusalem. That's the heart of Jerusalem.
But again, even I was reading John last night. That's the only reason I remember this off the top of my head. It talks about how the disciples and Yeshua went onto the Mount of Olives, which is a Sabbath walk from Jerusalem. Obviously, what they were referring to were the city walls, the old city of Jerusalem. So again, Jerusalem this day and age is probably much bigger from a city standpoint. It's expanded its city limits than ancient Jerusalem. was, because they're even in the Gospels, it's talking about the Mount of Olives kind of being, a Sabbath walk outside of Jerusalem. So again, you know me, I'm not dogmatic on this at all, because in the big scheme of things, it's not going to matter unless we're there, and and maybe God's using us to say, hey, when this happens, we need to get out.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it all works out in the end. We could be paying tribbers about it. There's no question about that. But we're trying to come up with a coherent story. Okay, that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to tell the story, and we're putting the puzzle pieces together as we go. All right. And what I'm suggesting is that we have two very distinct ladies on this puzzle board. Okay, one is Babylon. She's ancient, and she's always been called a harlot, called the mother of harlots, mind you. And that was her thing, that she was like the prima donna of all the harlots. She was what's the right word? The woman that took care of all the other harlots in the whorehouse. I mean, whatever you call that lady, that was kind of her job. Like, that was her function, is that all the harlots in the city of Babylon are like, oh, she's our queen because she takes care of us. Right. Now, Jerusalem was a married woman who then started to act in ways that she was not supposed to, granted, but there's two very distinct destinies. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, is that Jerusalem was married, screwed up big time, and God's going to restore her. Babylon was never supposed to be. She was an aberration from day one. She was an anathema to God from day one. And there was always this sense that God was going to utterly, totally wipe her out and erase her from the face of the earth. So we have two very different destinies for these two very different players.
Where are you getting Mother of Harlots from? I did my quick little simple BLB search, and I didn't see Mother of Harlots showing up anywhere.
Well, it's all in my book.
I don't care about your book right now. I'm talking about Scripture. Where in Scripture is Babylon called the Mother of Harlots?
In Revelation 17.
Okay.
And in ancient Near Eastern texts.
Okay.
This is where we have to go back to the ancient texts and we say, okay, what did they call Ishtar? She was called the mother of harlots. I mean, that's very significant. That is not trivial. That is a big deal. And I've shown, again, and I encourage everyone to read this because it's an amazing read. Okay. I bring all the receipts, every single one of them. I bring the receipts. I'm not making this stuff up, but I take you through the book of Revelation and I show you that when Satan is called the great red dragon, is that just random? Or you could say the same question. Well, where is he called the great red dragon in Scripture? Well, in Revelation. But it turns out when we go back to the ancient Mesopotamian texts, we find that he's called the Ushumgalu. He's called the Mushhushu. That thing that I just showed you, that right there is not this one, but this one, right? It's called the Anzu bird. He's also called the Mushhushu, the Ushumgalu. He's called the Great Red Dragon. In fact, we have the Great Red Dragon on the walls of the Ishtar Gate. I mean, oh my gosh, right? We can't ignore this evidence. This is very important evidence. It's setting the stage for us. It's giving us context for where these things are coming from. Again, you can see here on Enlil that he has a crown of 10 horns. I mean, that's not random. It is not at all random. You have a dragon with 7 heads and one is mortally wounded. Ta-da! There it is, right? So all of the imagery and iconography that John was receiving in the book of Revelation, it all goes back to ancient Babylon. That's the point. So I doubt that John would have had any cultural understanding in his day because Babylon was long gone. Whoa. But here, through the Spirit, these things are being revived. Now, maybe he saw glimpses and shadows in Rome, but it wasn't quite the same. But
why was he amazed? I think he was amazed, Doug, because he was given this vision of what the faith would become. Okay, so again, John, if John walked into a Roman Catholic church and saw the idols everywhere, or a Greek Orthodox church, or John were to walk into some of the more charismatic churches, I mean, that's what I'm getting at. We're not differing. I'm just I'm seeing the mixture of what you're describing, not discounting anything you're saying. I've seen the mixture throughout history, and I think at the end of the age, the veil, this veiled religion that like maybe at the upper echelon, when you really start studying maybe those that are initiated, I think the veil comes off. In other words, the true religion for the masses, who they're going to say is the Messiah. I think that's where we're in agreement. In other words, I'm not saying it's that right now Roman Catholicism is this final picture of what we're seeing, or right now that the occultic Judaism, I'm gonna call it occultic Judaism, or the occultic Islam. I'm not saying right now we're seeing this happen, but I do believe it's all building. It's all building into this one future world government, and then as part of that, I believe that'll be this one world religion. And the woman will then, be riding the beast, and then the beast is used to. We'll get to that part. We've only made it to 2 verses.
Well, I just think it's a category error to say that Jerusalem is Babylon.
Let's keep on going.
I agree with that. I'll never get on board with that one.
You don't have to.
No, here we go. Okay, so hold on. Well, while I'm here, I was looking at this text here. And Isaiah 47, right? So talks about the virgin daughter of Babylon, set on the ground on a throne, O daughter of the Babylonians. You'll no longer be called delicate and pampered, and all this stuff that the Lord is going to bring against her, O daughter of Babylon. You'll no longer be called queen of kingdoms. This isn't talking about Jerusalem. It's not. It's talking about Babylon, which was very much alive and well during the time of when this was saying. So now listen to this: one who lives so lavishly, who lives securely, who says to herself, I am unique, no one can compare to me, I will never have to live as a widow, I will never lose my children. Those will both come in a day. I mean, again, my part of my argument here is that God is wrathful against Babylon. He's disappointed, in Jerusalem for sure, but he still comes to fight on her behalf. That's the big distinction. It's a huge distinction.
There'll be repentance, as you have pointed out, when Judah cries out, blessed is he who comes in the name of Yah. When they look upon him, when they look, Zechariah 12, Judah will be saved. I mean, right. 100% no doubt, by golly. But there's also going to be, for those that don't repent, there's going to be wrath and judgment. In other words, he's no respecter of persons. Right. We just know how there's very little that I'm dogmatic about, but I believe that's that's something I would probably be very dogmatic on, is Judah is not coming into covenant. She's not going to cease being a widow until judgment falls and Judah enters covenant, gets regrafted back into the olive tree. Then all Israel is saved. The natural branches are grafted back in.
Yeah. I have a book series on that, Immortal Dawn. It's going to rock. You guys are going to love it. All right. So he carried me away in the spirit to a wilderness, and there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. Now the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet clothing and adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls. She held in her hand a golden cup filled with detestable things and unclean things from her sexual immorality. On her forehead was written a name, a mystery, right? Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the detestable things of the earth. And I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of those who testified to Jesus. I was greatly astounded when I saw her. All right. So again, this is the New English translation. They have put a colon here. Keep in mind, there was no punctuation in ancient Greek. All right. There was 0 punctuation. It was really hard to read. And in fact, they would just write everything together without any spaces. Thank God they finally started putting spaces between the words. And we started putting punctuation in things. It makes it so much easier to understand. However, when we are talking about ancient manuscripts and texts, we have to, give a little grace here that there wasn't that punctuation. So, um, the translators here of New English Translation are doing what they understand based on the grammar. And I would agree with them because it's a mystery. It's not saying mystery Babylon. It's not that mystery is part of the word Babylon, that it's a part of the title, like New York. Okay. You can't separate New York. There's a York in England, but in America, it's New York. It's not York. Right. So it's not mystery Babylon. It's that there's this Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes, who is mysterious. And again, I've already explained this, that Ishtar was very mysterious. She was both the goddess of life and death. She was the goddess of love and war. She was the goddess of prosperity and sorrow, and would take your money away as quick as you could possibly imagine. So she was just really hard to figure out, and you could not resolve who this woman was. She went down to the underworld, then she came back. She resurrected somehow. And, but it was all on the back of the city of Babylon. So she became this goddess who then got exported even to Jerusalem. I'm agreeing with that. But it all started in Babylon. And I think we have to go back there. We have to start with the source, and then we can work our way out. But if we get stuck at Rome, then I don't think we've gone back far enough. Dave Hunt wrote a book, The Woman That Rides the Beast, and it was all the Rome is this and Rome is that. And part of it's true, but it's not going back far enough. That's the problem. It's on the path, but it's not the source.
What you're talking about is you've heard me say this, Doug. All roads make a pit stop in Rome. They go back to Babylon. And so, but again, Rome, I love the way Halissa teaches this. She'll talk about the kingdoms and how Babylon conquered by Medo-Persia, the bear, and then then Greece with the leopard and the spots and the political systems and everything. Then you have Rome, and we're still in that fourth beast, Roman Empire, that kingdom. In other words, that iron, those two iron legs, I think, are representative of the East and the West. That kingdom, that beast, is not destroyed until Yeshua returns. And so we're in that Roman. And so what happened is the Roman Empire never, ever has been destroyed. She morphed. She morphed from this, from what happened in the 3rd and 4th century, from political weakness, into the Holy Roman Empire. And so
or did Babylon morph? Maybe that's another way.
But again, I said all roads make a pit stop. So Babylon, Babylon. Then you have Egypt and Assyria. Then you have the next one up is Babylon, as far as the kingdom, Nebuchadnezzar. And then you have, so you see this.
You have the Neo-Babylon. You have the old Babylonian kingdom under Nimrod.
Right. That's the original.
Yeah. Then you have the Akkadians, right? You
Sumerian, Akkadian, and
well, not so much Sumerian, but the Akkadians for sure. And then you have the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Then you have the Persian, Medo-Persians. Then you have the Greeks. Then you have.
What about the Assyrians? They were pretty empire-ish.
Well, Assyrians, Akkadians are they're the same. I'm agreeing with you.
So on this is a good question. Drunk with the blood of the saints, and again, I've got to go to Jerusalem, Jerusalem. This is the words of Yeshua. You who stoned. Well, let me finish. You who stoned the prophets. You who kill the prophets. I've sent you this one. I've sent you this one. I've sent you this one. Nobody wanted to be a prophet to the nation of Israel, the nation of Judah. I mean, Yeshua body slams the religion of Judah on this. And again, one of her daughters, Rome, has killed many saints. The Church of England killed saints. The Switzerland State Church killed Anabaptists. I mean, so again, you see, she's wearing many dresses here. I'm not just lumping this in on Rome. I mean, Judah's always been a minority. Judah's not been running around, for a long time and persecuting Christians because they have not had the authority. So Judaism has not been, at least as far as the religion goes, she's not been the one killing the saints. So, are you thinking that this is just something that the saints are going to get killed at the very, very end in the Great Tribulation by this future system?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think his question, I think it needs a little unpacking, because to suggest that the saints didn't come around until after Messiah is not accurate.
No, I don't think
have,
maybe he's asking, not saying. So
okay, well, okay, fine, fair enough. But we have in Daniel, it's talking about the one who would overcome the saints. Saints is simply a word for the set apart ones. We can go back, and I'm thinking in Deuteronomy, it talks about the saints. So again, it's just anybody who is set apart, specifically set apart with Yehovah, like that's who they were supposed to be set apart for. So, I think.
Well, and again, these people are just pointing out facts about the global influence of Rome.
Yeah.
The adultery and idolatry and the spiritual immorality. And again, I'm not talking about grandma and that's been raised a Roman Catholic her whole life. I'm talking about the system. But these fit the purple and scarlet clothing. I mean, good gracious, it's almost. What can we do to make it look like we're this great prostitute in Revelation 17? Oh, I got it. We'll choose purple and scarlet. We won't choose green or yellow. For our potentates and popes and cardinals and everything, we'll use these colors. Because again, that's the way Rome views herself. I love Veith on this. Rome has not changed. The doctrines have not changed. Maybe a lot of Roman Catholics don't believe what the doctrine is, but when you read the doctrine, it has not changed. We're all considered apostate. We're going, if you really follow it, we are going to hell. So again, that's and she has not changed. I can see how ultimately Rome is involved in this future one world religion, this blending that does go all the way back to what you're pointing out. The mask is off, Doug. There's no more a mask. There's no longer a mask. They start to teach what's behind the scene. In other words, the symbols are everywhere. These pagan symbols you're bringing up, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
They're not hidden.
Well, they're also in India. They're everywhere, as you said. I just don't think it's right to point out only Rome. I think that is.
Well, the reason I say Rome is because it's also the fourth. It's that fourth beast, and she split.
Yeah,
like those that argue for Islam. Again, what is ancient Rome if it's not westernized Christianity and Islam? Well, I mean, look at the geography of ancient Rome, and then you look at the geography today and over history. Initially it split into like an Eastern Orthodoxy type thing, and you did have the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Yeah.
But ultimately, Islam conquered. I mean, Turkey, Syria, all these nations used to be Christian nations in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th centuries, and then over time they got conquered. Spain was a Muslim nation at one point in time.
That's true. I mean, there's lots of Spanish. There's lots of Arabic words in Spanish.
And you've got this. I just don't think Rome ever went away, and right now she's represented in sort of a westernized Christianity religion and Islam type religion, and then you've got Judah kind of in the middle. So,
I guess I keep getting confused because you're saying it's Rome, but then you're saying this is actually talking about Jerusalem.
Well, no, I'm including Judah in with her sister at the end of the age, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I think what you're really saying is Revelation 17 is talking about a system called Babylon that has gone over the whole world.
Exactly.
Well, okay, then we're in agreement.
I think ultimately she puts her seat and authority in Jerusalem, because I think that's what Enlil Satan wants to do. That's his end game goal.
Well, I mean, I'm I'm not disagreeing with that. I think there's that part of that is true. I just when we categorically say that Revelation 17 is talking about Jerusalem, that's where I'm like, no,
It's more of a system, like you just
a
said.
system. Yeah. Well,
But
then
I do
we're in
think
agreement.
the city spoken of, only fits Jerusalem. No, I mean, again,
Wait. Now you're saying the city only fits Jerusalem?
Where were the prophets
You
killed,
keep going
dude?
back and forth, bud.
Where were the prophets killed?
Well, they were spiritually Sodom and Gomorrah,
But
not
where were the prophets killed? Who killed them?
not Babylon.
Who killed the old prophets? The
The
pagans?
old prophets.
Yeah. Who was it that Yeshua was talking to? It wasn't Assyria. It wasn't Babylon that killed the prophets. I mean,
Okay.
they killed him. Again, it was part of
Yeah.
God's plan, but they killed the son.
Okay.
They did. That's not anti-Semitic. That's just truth.
But how does that apply to Revelation 17?
Because it says right there, Doug, it says, saw the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and blood of those who testified to Yeshua. So again, the blood of the saints. Now,
but again, but you're cherry picking. You're suggesting that this has to be talking about Jerusalem when it could be so much broader. I mean,
it's both
so much broader.
Hebraic thought. It doesn't have to be either or.
But you keep making the case. I mean, just when I think we're talking about something global, you're like, but it's Jerusalem.
It ends up back. Look, I'm not even dogmatic on this, but I would be pretty strong that at the end of this age, it ends up in Jerusalem, is my point. That this is where Satan will set his false messianic kingdom up. That's where he's going to want to rule from. I can't see him doing it in New York. I can't see him doing it at the Vatican. You know, I can't see him doing it at Mecca.
But he's going to burn. He's going to burn Babylon, right?
Again, I don't think anything of modern day right now, and at
but
the end of the day,
not God, but the beast.
Well, again, I think the beast is used for judgment of Babylon, the religion,
or the city. Which is it? I'm so confused.
It's both.
And when we get to chapter 18, you have all this amazing commerce happening there. So you think my idea that Babylon, the actual city of Babylon, could be rebuilt? You think that's crazy? But then you think that Revelation 18 must be referring to Jerusalem when it's talking about ships and that all of this amazing wealth is all going through Jerusalem.
I believe it will.
When does it ever fit? So
I believe it will.
A radical change.
In the end, it will.
So there has to be a radical change.
Well, if you've got the emperor of the world who's claiming to be Messiah ruling from Jerusalem, I'm assuming there's going to be some pretty active commerce going on.
So your theory is the same as mine, that it could be a radical transformation of a city to something that it's completely not today. Okay, so
but not like
that. On that one.
Not off in the ancient desert, no.
But ancient deserts are not a half bad place to rebuild something. There's nobody there. It's great. You don't have to knock anything down. You know.
So, but then if you had a new future Babylon city, so that's where you're agreeing with me that the system, not the city, has killed the saints and the prophets.
Yeah, I mean, my rebuilding of Babylon the city in the plains of Shinar, which does talk about. Zechariah talks about it, that this woman in a lead basket is taken to the plains of Shinar, which is clearly in Mesopotamia, because that's what Shinar means. That's kind of a pet theory. All right. I mean, I'm not losing any sleep on that one. If the city is never rebuilt. However, he's gonna smite something. Some city is gonna get it, and it doesn't fit Jerusalem at all. And I don't think he's so mad at Rome today. I don't know that Rome, the city, God is so ticked off at. I don't know, but
I have never personally been to the Vatican, but I've seen the pictures, and there's so much idolatry there. It's almost like, well, we're just going to when you start looking at Yah's way, not the way we look at it in the West, but you look at that would just be pure evil according to the Torah. Almost everything about it is evil according to the Torah. And same thing with Jerusalem, with all the symbols and idols and just everything about it is there's nothing according to the Torah that is.
Well, now what are you referring to? What
I'm talking about just the religious symbols, the idols. It could be, I'm not just picking on Greek Orthodox or Roman Catholics or Jews or Muslims, but all these religions love their symbols. And when you start looking at some of, just some of the occult symbolism in Rome, I mean, it's got a big penis in the middle of the Vatican, man. I mean, it's got a big sundial. Think about going back to ancient Babylon. That's exactly what it's doing. It's got the Peter's, whatever that thing is called. I mean, that's symbolism of the woman. You've got the ancient mother, father, baby God going on. And that's what it's staring us right in the face. You've got to be willfully not wanting to see what Rome is symbolizing. It's going back to Babylon.
Okay.
Just look at the Pope's hat. He's got a fish Dagon hat. I mean,
okay. Well, they're definitely part of the problem. I think we definitely will agree on that.
At least I got that out of you.
All right. And an angel said to me, "Why are you astounded? I will interpret for you the mystery of the woman and of the beast with the 7 heads and 10 horns that carries her. The beast that you saw was and is not, but is about to come up from the abyss and then go to destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, those whose names have not been written in the book of life since the foundation of the world, will be astounded when they see that the beast was and is not and is to come. This requires a mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains. The woman sits on. They're also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. But whenever he does come, he must remain for only a brief time. The beast that was and is not is himself the 8th king and is yet one of the 7 and is going to destruction." Oh my gosh, there's so much in there. Well, again, I take this back to Nimrod. He was the first bad guy. He himself established Babylon. He is the beast that the woman is riding on. This right here, the woman that the beast that she's standing on is both Nimrod and Enlil. And he's going to eventually gobble her up because he doesn't like her anymore. He is the source and the reason for her existence, right? She could not exist without the beast. Sometimes you think the person on top of the beast is ruling, but actually it's the beast who's carrying the woman. That's what Revelation 17 is getting at. She thinks that she's in control, but the beast is like, nah, I don't think so. You're not at all. And so it's, again, Nimrod, he was the one who, according to Genesis chapter 10, he became a Gibor. Something was transformed in him. I think as we trace his name, the root of his name throughout history, we see it in Marduk, we see it in Martes, we see it in Martu. Martes is the god Mars. We see it throughout history, and it's spread all these different directions. It's the rebel. And so she's sitting on top of Mr. Let's Rebel, aka Rebellion. And it's a system that has worked, not greatly, but it has, survived, and it's done its thing. And it's that system of rebellion. And see, Anana can be whatever you want her to be. Whatever you want. It can be wealth. It can be fame. It can be, sexuality in various ways. It can be all kinds of things. Pick your poison. She can be it for you. It really doesn't matter. And so she is basically, since you're into fishing, right? What do you put at the end of that line? You put something on there to do what to the fish?
Trick it.
To trick it, to lure it. She's the lure. She's the hook. But I tell you, do you need the lure once you got the hook in the jaw of the fish? No, you don't. And I think that's why eventually the beast is going to destroy her, because he's like, well, now I got you guys hooked. You can't go anywhere, so I don't need the lure anymore. She was the bait. I don't need her anymore. I got you guys. You signed the covenant of death. Now you're toast. There's no way out of this. I don't need this woman anymore. I don't need to give you promises. I don't need to tell you how I'm going to improve your life and that, all this stuff is going to be so fun, fun, fun. We can get rid of the cheerleader now because now you're mine. Now you're my slave. You're my prisoner, and there's no undoing this.
This is interesting. I've never thought about this, but Jerusalem meaning like the worldwide false faith or false church, Jerusalem above being our mother. I've never done a deep dive on that, but it piqued my curiosity, as far as the earthly Jerusalem and Paul's allegorical approach to that, and how earthly Jerusalem is sort of like the slave, the concubine, versus so again, that's again, I mean, at least for me, Jerusalem's just it's sort of oppressive. I mean, I know it's it's just very. I love the northern part of Israel, but Jerusalem is just it's just very oppressive, and seeing the idolatry just everywhere. So I probably feel the same way about the Vatican. I feel the same way right now, Doug. If I just put it up a second ago, I feel the same way right now about Washington, D.C. Now that I know what I know, as far as it has its own phallic symbol, it has its own, representative of the womb and the Capitol building. It has its own occult layout on these occultic lines. And I don't think that the SDAs are that nutty as far as the United States sort of being the military arm of Rome. And so, and that's sort of, we've got bases. The United States has bases all over the world. We are definitely sort of like the military big boy of the westernized Christianity. And we exert our dominance not only in that, we exert our dominance everywhere.
Yeah. So. Well, yeah. And so kind of thinking about that, again, this is why I just don't think the pit stop of Rome is where we should stop. I think we need to go back. We need to go back to Babylon, because the beast that is himself an eighth king, yet he's of the seven. So there's this group of seven. Okay, so imagine this. You've got Nimrod. Okay, and then I'm not going to name exactly which kings come after this. Okay, because that's a matter of some speculation. But there's seven kingdoms. Let's just say that. Okay, so we have ancient Babylon started by Nimrod. Then we have the Assyrian, aka Akkadian Empire. Then we have Neo-Babylon, right? So that's 3. Then you have Medo-Persia, that's 4. Then you have Greece, that's 5. Okay, so 5 have fallen. 1 that would be Rome. We're in agreement on that one. Okay. And then it says there's one more to come. Now that's a good question as to who that was. Was it the Ottoman Empire? I don't know. I don't have a dog in that race right now. But then he is of the 8th. He's of the 7, but he's now the 8th. So the first guy is going to become the last guy. So there's a group of 7, and then at the end of time, the first guy comes back, and he's now of the group of 7, but now he's also numerically the 8th. That's what's going to happen here. And so yes, Rome is definitely part of that. I agree. Rome is part of this problem. Rome is part of this lineage of bad actors. Yes. But we can't just pin the tail on Rome. That is just a category error. That is anachronistic. That's not going back to where the problem really starts. I mean, when we look at Rome, we're trimming branches off a tree. But you got to get down to the roots. And that's why I'm passionate about this, because I want to get down to the roots, not just trim some branches. If we trim the branches, okay, the tree looks a little better, but the rot is still there because it's in the roots. And that is why God is going to completely uproot Babylon. That's why God is so hostile against Babylon. He's not in the same way hostile toward Jerusalem. Yes, he brings judgment and punishment against Jerusalem. He says that, you've been really bad, and you're going to get chastised for that, but I'm going to restore you. There's always a promise of restoration. With Babylon, there is no promise of restoration. In fact, there's a promise of utter annihilation. That's the huge
Let me
difference.
ask you this, because I used to think you were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs for thinking that the New Jerusalem came down at the beginning of the millennium. I no longer think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Maybe I am now too, because again, I don't see the old Jerusalem being here during. In other words, what the current Jerusalem looks like right now. Its topography, it's everything. I just don't see it being here.
Sure.
And I see it being replaced by the
Yeah.
Jerusalem from above,
Yeah.
and so you don't realize you're doing it, but you're actually making a case for the old Jerusalem to be gone.
Well, I know that, but you could say the same thing that, Berlin after World War II, was that a different Berlin? Well, kind of. I mean, certainly the buildings were different. And after World War II, it was decimated. I mean, there was nothing left. And so they had to completely rebuild it, but it's still Berlin, right? And so, yes, I agree that New Jerusalem, obviously, that was my idea. I think New Jerusalem's coming down at the beginning of the millennium. And so when we're talking about buildings, we're talking about infrastructure, bridges, edifices, all this different stuff, the Dome of the Rock, okay, any of that stuff, it's going to get wiped. I'm agreeing with you on that. However, but Jerusalem, a city can be three things. It's a location, it's a people, and it's infrastructure, right? And, just like Berlin, the infrastructure was destroyed, but, a decent amount of the people survived. And obviously the location survived.
Well, we had to deal with that when we were discussing with Goat Boy, saying, dude, you don't like, yeah, Yeshua's not going to marry the sewer system or a building, because it does say when we get there, it does say that New Jerusalem is the bride. Now, if you take that hyper literally, you have Yeshua marrying part of his creation that doesn't necessarily live and breathe. You ignore the entire you ignore the entire love story going all the way back to Genesis, all the way through Revelation, and you have Yeshua marrying a literal city. So, but to your point, it is both and it is the infrastructure, it is the building, it is the streets, it is those things, but without the people, it's nothing.
Without the people, we call it a ghost town, right? That's China has been building these ghost towns like there's no tomorrow for whatever reason. I mean, there's whole cities with skyscrapers and they got street lights and paved streets and all this stuff, and yet nobody lives there. It's the weirdest thing. So it's almost a city. It has the makings of a city, but it needs the people. That's what it's missing. So clearly the people. Yeah.
I've never, it's a theory. Again, I'm not saying this is the case, but I can see how there might be certain in the future. And I do believe China has been the test case for the global government. I believe that's why Kissinger and Brzezinski back in the 60s and the 70s, and the system they've put in place now with the social credit scoring and the monitoring and all those things. I believe that what happened is they used this dictatorial communist country to test case this over the past, I guess it's now been like 55 plus years. And I think they've got it pretty much down to a science as far as how to control people with money. No, sorry, you did this and you didn't do this. You cannot. Your money card doesn't work for you to travel. You get punished in China if your social credit score. And so again, I believe that's sort of they've been used as a test. So maybe they're sort of like building them for future world people to go live in. Because they've got the system set up. It makes no sense to build them like you're talking about. Why are they doing that?
Yeah, it's a very, very strange thing. But that's a whole different discussion. Somebody in the chat said no one's mentioned aliens.
I saw that earlier.
Well, not everything is about aliens, but I definitely think aliens are part of the end times scenario. And I think the aliens are going to be the explanation of why we are fighting against. Well, I think everything's going to be flipped on its head. That the two witnesses come and they're going to be viewed as hostile aliens, and they represent a advanced alien being named Yahweh, Jesus, or whatever. And I think the belief, ironically, I think the belief in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is going to be at an all-time high. People are like, oh yeah, we believe in him, but he's just an advanced alien being. And he's not very nice. And his two dudes just came and they were real jerks. But thankfully, this guy named the Beast, or whatever his name is going to be, he took care of them. They resurrected. That put us a lot of fear in us, but we're now ready. We are getting ready to make war against, the Bible says the Lamb, but they're not going to call him the Lamb. They're going to call him, Mr. Hostile Alien, hostile alien God. But we can beat him. That's the strong delusion. We can beat him if we work together, if we come together, if we take the mark of the beast. We can be a united humanity. And we've seen this in a million movies. I mean, the Avengers does it. They all do it, right? Where there's some threat from the outside. Ronald Reagan even famously said, I often think how quickly we would forget our differences if we were faced with a hostile alien force. And I'm like, well, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Ingrid, and Ingrid, we agree. In other words, they're interdimensional, and Christopher had put up here that yes, they're in this. They can, if allowed by God, they can choose to enter into this dimension so they can be seen. And I think they will be allowed at the end of the age. And the plausible theory, is I think that's what they're trying to get the mindset that those at the upper levels that communicate with these beings, that they know who they're talking to. When you start looking at it again, if you believe the Bible, you believe that people can communicate with these extra dimensional beings. I can see at the end of the age how they're going to be more manifest, and maybe, they've planted the seed with aliens, but the delusion is not going to be we're aliens. It's going to be we're these immortal gods. It's almost like Doug pointed out earlier, there's that new movie called The Immortals. It's not new now. It's been out for a while.
The Eternals.
The Eternals. But so you've sort of got these beings that are more highly evolved. They're more advanced. I believe that might be part of the deception, is that we too can become as gods.
Mm-hmm.
We too. I think it goes back to I still believe it goes back to the oldest lie in the book, but it's not going to be aliens from a little green man. It's going to be, this is good for you type thing. You can, I'm your God. I'm actually the one that created you. In other words, I can see the head honcho, the Antichrist, the beast going, I created everything. I'm the God. I'm your savior, and you can be like me. Again, it's going to imitate what Yeshua said. Yeshua said, if we believe in him, we will have eternal life. This is going to be like a cheat code or a shortcut for people, but they're going to be putting their trust and faith in the wrong Messiah. So I don't know how it all plays out, but that is not a Looney Tunes theory to think that they're going to, manifest and say we can become like them. We can be this higher level of intelligence, and I can see how AI, because again, the adversary is not omnipotent. He's not omniscient. He's not omnipresent. That's the purpose of the technology. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the purpose of what's being built with the AI system and everything. And I learned a valuable lesson recently. You can't trust AI. It'll make stuff up. Totally. It'll just make stuff up.
Not good for law.
It totally just made something up, and I like the lawyer file, and like good gracious, you've always got to check. If you're going to be using it, you've got to check and go back and double check the sites, and because it'll just literally, and it like created something out of thin air. It's like it didn't even exist in the world. It's like, maybe this guy just wants to hear this, and I'll tell him what he wants to hear.
It's generative. It's generative. There's no doubt.
And hey, speaking of that, I have a hearing tomorrow at 11, and I have procrastinated. I've not procrastinated. I've been extremely busy, and so I'm probably going to be pulling an all-nighter. And so I need to get home, and maybe I'll get 2 or 3 hours of sleep before I have to wake up in the morning. So
sounds good. Well, we will carry on. There's more to this this woman that rides the beast. So we have the rest of 17 and 18. We'll try to get to those next week. Thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for all the great comments and questions. And we will see you next time. So
yeah.
God bless
I
you.
think we might have a guest on with us next time, since we're sort of in the middle. So I'll ask some people, or maybe you ask some people. 4 is not too many if they're the right people. So
perfect. All right. Good night, everyone.